Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Motor Mouth. And wow, Bill Winters. And well, Bill, we have ourselves a very interesting show, and we'll lead it off with the XFL. Glad to have you back on, Wild Bill.
Nice to be here, Scott. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I love these long days where we can have a whole lot of fun and entertain an awful lot of people. And not only entertain, and give them some knowledge. You got it, buddy. So, with that said, okay, what little time we're going to give this subject, okay? We'll give it what I feel it's due. Let's talk about the XFL, okay? And you wanted to mention some things about it? This is your opportunity to talk about the XFL Round 2.
Okay. Well, yesterday and today they had the draft. And it was interesting. I watched the draft all day yesterday and took notes. And they're basically looking at having a draft to get 71 guys into camp. You can't basically have a football team with 71 in the camp. So they're probably going to have another draft, which is going to be called a supplemental draft. They'll probably have that sometime in November, December. And the guys they're going to pick up there are the guys that are sitting on the fence right now. Guys like Ryan Mallett, who probably could play in this league as a quarterback, but know that they are looking at, almost $1 million to sit back and maybe get picked up by an NFL team. And in fact, a couple of the guys that got drafted in the XFL actually signed NFL contracts, I think today and yesterday. So it's a good opportunity for a lot of guys. I think I've been watching, some of the things that are floating through the media right now. There's some misnomers. They're going to have they're going to carry 40-man rosters with a 5-man practice squad. They're also going to carry a farm team in Dallas that's going to stay in Frisco to stay in shape to replace injured players during the 10-game season, which I think is really, really smart. They've given this a lot of thought. They're going to have 20 guys making a base salary of about $55,000 with incentives up to about $130,000. They're going to call them metrics. And then you're going to have Tier 2, which is going to be another 10 players. They're going to be making around $150,000 to $200,000, but their base salary will be the same, but they'll have incentives, or in this case, metrics, that allow them to make a lot more money than $55,000. And then you're going to have Tier 1, which is going to be 10 more other players, which will meet the 40-man roster, and those players will make the same base salary, but they're going to have metrics that will allow them to maybe make more money than $200,000 to $300,000. So I kind of like the structure of it, but already we're starting to see people talking about what the players are making, and they haven't released the Tier 2 or the Tier 1 metrics, just the Tier 3 metrics, which is the rookies. So you basically have a 40-man roster, 20, 10, and 10, with a tier of 3, 2, 1, respectively, and some pretty good money. This is going to be a quarterback-driven league. So they drafted quarterbacks like the Roughnecks here. They drafted Philip Walker, who was on a couple developmental rosters the last 2 years, played at Temple, good player, and they drafted Connor Cook. So it's still a work in progress, but they're going to have a really good passing game so that they can keep people glued to their TV sets. And what I really liked is the XFL was smart enough to be able to release players after April 26th, because they're going to be paid a week or two after the season's over. And I believe there's interfaced with the draft. But if an NFL team really wants any of these players in the league, they'll be able to go and play in the NFL and be able to leave their contract and still get paid up until April 26th. They just have to wait until April 26th. So I think it's good for the NFL. I think you'll be able to get some good arms out of it. Some other players, too. In the Alliance, believe it or not, there were 56 players that were signed to NFL contracts. And guys went into camp, and a lot of these guys actually made NFL rosters.
Well,
I think it's an opportunity to basically have good entertainment in the spring, and at the same time get some guys to play their way back into the NFL, and I think it's good for all parties.
Yeah, I think it's a good PR move for the XFL if that's indeed what their plan is. It really is. I mean, let's face reality. Nobody ever wants to classify themselves as a developmental league, but in retrospect, it really is. But at least if they're willing to pay a guy 2 weeks up until then I think that's a really good concept. I didn't know anything about that, but yeah, I like that. I think that's good. It's all about trying to make sure that there are enough good football players out there, Bill, that you can easily go out there and feed a lot of leagues. There just hasn't been a league that's really stepped up to provide a decent amount of entertainment. And in this day and age, I've always thought that I really liked NFL Europe. The problem was it was just too expensive to really run it. So,
well, I will say this to you. You know, I've always been of the opinion that NFL Europe was something that was a little bit of a ruse because the NFL had just come off almost having forcing a merger, because remember the USFL took the NFL to court and found them guilty of antitrust.
Right.
They won the case, and usually when you win a case in antitrust, it's triple damages. And they had a couple of jurors walk out that day. That's how my career ended, and they asked them, you know, well, what do you think the monetary award should be? And one guy said, yeah, $1 billion, but I don't really know. We're going to let a panel do that because it's over our head as far as the amount of money we should be awarded. And the reporter, right then and there, knew. He said, no, you know that you have to do that. And he looked and he was puzzled. So right away, I knew the jury was kind of confused with the verdict of the monetary award. There was no doubt the NFL was guilty of antitrust, which would have forced the merger. So you would have teams like Jacksonville, Nashville, Oakland, and one or two of the other markets, get absorbed that didn't have NFL teams back then.
Right.
And that would have been it, just like the old ABA and the NBA. Learning that, then you have NFL doing NFL Europe, and one of the reasons why they did that was, number one, to check it out and see what kind of response they're going to get in Europe, but also defend off future antitrust legislation.
Okay.
So it's a little double-edged sword there. So not everything always looks good. It's a lot of times it's political to protect the amount of money that these owners are making.
Okay.
Sort of like what's going on in China right now. A little bit of hypocrisy.
Yeah, it really is. Well, again, with the XFL, you said there's like a few different layers of this draft, and then they get to do it again, basically. Anything else you want to add about it?
We have 3 tiers, 3 levels of pay. One of the kids that I coached in high school that's been on 2 developmental rosters was the first running back picked by the Seattle Dragons. So I have a student that I'm very, very close to that I stay in touch with that has been activated been on 6 NFL teams the last 2 years. Has been activated a couple of times. Is a really, really good player. Went to A&M. Came out his junior year. And here's an opportunity for him to play some ball and show him what he can do. And he can definitely play in the NFL. There's just so few spots that it's going to be great for some guys to make a really good living, possibly play their way back into the NFL, share a team, come up with a package for him, put him in, the slot and that kind of thing. He can return punts. So there's a lot of talent out there. We're not talking about that many guys.
Right.
And I will tell you that the NFL needs some kind of feeder system. So I think that, we've arrived in a situation where we have a guy, Vince McMahon, that recognizes that there's really good talent. There's really good market for spring football, and it's not going to go away this time, and we're going to have to worry about politics or anything else. Let's just go play ball and try to make the game better all around for both leagues.
Yeah, that's interesting how you say that too, Bill, because obviously the Alliance tried to get a head start in it, and they went belly up quick because they weren't prepared, not only financially, but and everybody thought there'd be a merger. Well, not quite. We never even got to the end of the year, but meanwhile, Vince McMahon had a little extra time to go ahead and learn from the Alliance's mistakes, and now he's able to get some of their players. I think Luis Perez signed a contract recently. I'm sure that there's probably a lot of other guys that probably were in the Alliance.
Luis is going to be the quarterback for the LA Wildcats.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So there's still a lot of good opportunities. One of the things I was looking at with some of the coaches that I was really intrigued about is a guy by the name of Jerry Glanville is an assistant coach, I believe, with Tampa. Is that correct? How many different leagues?
I actually got a chance to talk to Coach Glanville. I went down to Tampa and got into Raymond James Stadium. Said hello to Mr. Luck. and met a lot of the coaches. I've been around a long time, so there were some guys that I hadn't seen in a long, long time, and Coach Glanville was there. And he's up there in age, but he's still got the juice.
Let me tell you,
and it was fun to mess around with him a little bit. And they were all out there looking for talent.
I've seen Glanville a couple times throughout the years. I'll never forget the one time when I met him over at the Georgia Dome. He actually gave me a one-on-one interview after. I think he was the coach of the Atlanta Falcons at the time. Gave me a one-on-one. It doesn't hurt that we're both Detroiters either, so that obviously warmed him up. And then I bumped into him.
Oh, I didn't know that. So Coach Glanville's from Detroit area?
Yeah, well, he definitely he has a history with the Lions, let's put it that way. So, I don't know where he was born, but he has a history with the Lions. And me being a Detroit guy, you can tell where that went. And then I bumped into him over at the Green Bay airport, and we picked up where we left off. So, in my opinion, it was pretty good stuff. And whatever I needed, Jerry gave me. Listen, Bill, I got a much deeper history in this game than most people think, including you. Okay? We just don't get around to talking about everything, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about everything. But I'm intrigued that not only some of the players that are joining the league, but some of the good coaches that you have in this league as well. I really am. June Jones is another vagabond that goes from league to league. Mark Trestman. You got guys that coach in the NFL, the CFL, and now the XFL. And
these guys are all NFL caliber coaches.
Yeah, they are.
They've either been NFL head coaches, one step away. Winston Moss was the assistant head coach with Packers.
Right.
And so there's no. These guys have the pedigree. There's no doubt about it. In fact, I'm looking forward to some of these guys. It's an opportunity they've worked their lifetime for to be a head coach. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I think so too. So, all right, let's go on from the XFL. I know we'll have many opportunities to talk about it, but one topic which I'm obviously very close to because I'm a regular writer for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we're going to talk about Jalen Ramsey. Okay, I'm going to just shoot off questions, and you're going to just give me your responses to them. And let's talk about the fact that you mentioned earlier in pre-production that with the Rams are a desperate team to have made such a move like this.
What's your question, Scott?
My question is, how desperate is a team like this when they're making a move like this?
All right. Well, I think there's a bit of desperation with the Rams making that move to get Jalen Russell because of the amount of compensation they gave up to get a player, 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick.
Right.
That kind of mortgages your future. Right. So the Rams' future is now, and they've made that decision. I think the reason they've made that decision is because they've got a new stadium that they've got to get into.
Right.
They're out in California. It's right around the corner from Hollywood, so they've got to kind of have the star type, team. It's always been like that in Los Angeles. You've got a lot of competing, competition out there. So you want people to come to the games, and they recognize star power. People in Los Angeles don't really watch football, or follow it as much as they do here in the East Coast. I lived out there for a long, long time. They didn't have a team for a long, long time, and nobody really cared one way or the other. So now that they have a team there, they have a new facility. They've got to draw people to the games. So a lot of it is PR.
Right.
All right, so you've got both teams. I think it was a trade that was good for both teams. I think a little bit better for Jacksonville. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Sure.
But I think that there's a little bit of desperation there, and what I mean by that is to give up 2 first-round picks and a 4th is a little steep. Jacksonville pulled the plug on it. The old man that's sitting there is an old man. He's won Super Bowls. Tom Coughlin knows what he's doing.
Right.
All right, so they were able to get rid of the headache.
Right.
Guy that's been kind of playing him a little bit. We're going to see how bad his back is when he goes to the Rams.
Right.
But the reality of it is they're not going to mortgage their future. And what they really need, is they need an offensive line. You need to be able to run the football a little bit. They're kind of being buried by this star thing because if Gurley's not 100%, they need another running back. They need a couple of linemen. They, got some youth guys in there. They're not running the football like they did last year. Defensively, they're nicked up front. Keith Talib is out.
Right.
I believe another one of their players, Johnson, is out. So, this is a big wash, but it's good